Hey friends, it's Gabe Kolstad here with Westside Community Church, and I want to say a big thanks to you for joining us for this online church experience and give you just a real quick sense of what's going to be happening in this time. First of all, we are going to be exploring. We're going to explore the ideas, the breakthroughs, the things that we want to see in our lives, and maybe what are the barriers that are standing in the way for us getting those things. Secondly, we're going to reflect. We're going to take some time through songs and prayer to really kind of look inward and see what might be the place where we need to go next individually. And then thirdly, we're going to act. We believe that faith should be able to be put into action. And so we're going to give you some good, solid next steps and hope that you'll be able to take advantage of those things. I also want you to know that you're with safe people and with good company. We are really a group of people that we realize nobody's perfect. We always say no perfect people allowed. So if that fits you, you fit us, and we would love to hang out with you. So enjoy the time together today.
Welcome to Church Online. My name is Steve. I'm the executive pastor here at Westside.
And I'm Sarah, part of the Connections team.
And we are here to help you get settled and get connected here today. So I want to start with this. I want you to grab your phone. I want you to text the word hello to 503-905-9067. And when you text that number, you're going to get a link back that's going to take you to a page that has a bunch of resources on it and great ways to get connected. In fact, when you hit that connect button, we want to make sure that if you're brand new here, that we get a great email for you because we've got a book we want to send you that's going to help you grow in your faith. Now, there's a bunch of other stuff in there too.
Yes.
That we should tell them about.
Yes. So we have a couple events coming up. November 29th, which is Sunday, 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. We're going to do Deck the Halls, which means we're going to decorate outside of the church.
Nice.
There's going to be hot chocolate because it might be cold outside. Good. It'll be a fun time. You can sign up for that. And you can also sign up for the ladies' virtual Christmas event, December 4th at 7 p.m. We're going to have Christmas music, games, and prizes, and a Christmas Bible study. So ladies, you don't want to miss that.
Very nice. So you want to do that using that connection link. So don't forget to do that. Now, this year has been a crazy year, and yes. I don't know that anybody would have written down a guess on what it was going to be like.
No.
But we know that God has been with us through all of it, and you have been with us through all of it. This church has been phenomenal, and your prayers and generosity have allowed for so many great things to happen. Without you, our ministry teams would not be working so tirelessly. Our facilities have gone through a fantastic upgrade and are ready for guests. So there has been life change that has been happening this entire time. The growth in our church planting endeavors has been awesome and heartwarming, and our community needs are being met. In fact, one thing I thought was so cool is that all of our ministry partners that we support as a church, we have not missed $1 of support for any of those ministry partners. It's been so cool to be a part of a church like this. And today we get to celebrate something really cool. Nick and Christy, their daughter, Lennox, in fact, Lennox's first birthday is today. And this week we got to dedicate Lennox. So why don't you check this out?
Lennox has a birthday coming up, right?
Yeah, it's on Sunday.
Oh, and then this will be showing. Oh, this is so great. It'll be part of the
so
it'll be on her birthday.
It'll be on her birthday.
That's great.
Our intent in raising kids is not to keep them in our, little bubble. It is to send them into God's great world as agents of His love. The joy of parenting is that you've got a little world changer right there in your arms, and that's an exciting thing. We're here to support you. Our view of what kids ministry is that it's really supporting you guys as you disciple Lennox, and we know that's going to take some support. So we've got tools and resources and relationships that we hope you'll lean into, and so we're here for you. Okay, we want you to lean in. We're excited about what God has done in bringing Lennox into your life. We believe that He's got a great purpose, and I'm asking you: do you commit to this journey, being intentional, faith-building parents, of being an example, giving Lennox the best advantage of home and education and church that you possibly can, and really being the parents that instill faith in her? Do you commit to that journey?
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome. And Linux, I can see you're already committed to it, so we're pumped for you.
Lord, thank you so much for precious Linux. And as we lift her to you, Father, we ask that you would watch over her all the days of her life. We ask for your protection, guidance, and provision to be with her. Guide her footsteps and inspire her minds, and may she grow in faith. We ask all this in the wonderful name of Jesus. Amen. So we presented you with perhaps Linux's first Bible, which is exciting. So that's a keepsake for today, and then certificate that came along with it that Pastor gave. We're just really honored to be a part of this and part of this experience with your family. And perfect. And when we all get back, I'll get to see Linux maybe in the country. That'll be fun.
Yes.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Rebuilding Your Life. I'm excited to be in this teaching series on the book of Nehemiah with you. And if you're joining us for the first time, welcome. We're so glad you're with us. I hope that you got your notes ready so you can learn along with everybody else and take some next steps as we get ready to enter into, I think, a discussion that's going to make a big, big difference in your life. Here's a couple things we're going to talk about today in this message called How to Handle Opposition. I want to teach you the 3 kinds of opposition. I want to show you the number one predictor of victory or success if you're facing opposition like Nehemiah did. And I want to show you what you must do now to overcome. And I have to tell you, we need you to overcome. We need you to overcome. Listen, we do not need another broken marriage right now in our society, in our community. We do not need another addicted person right now, or another addiction overcoming somebody. We don't need that right now. We don't need another crash and burn. We don't need to see another family crash and burn. We don't need another business to crash and burn, do we? Aren't you feeling that urgency and that pain with me? Right now, what we need from you is we need to see you overcome. We need to see you overcome in every way. What's going to happen if you do is that those that are looking at you are going to see in you something that they admire and respect. They're going to see you doing something that they want to do. You're going to show them the way. You're going to help them to see what's possible. Maybe you've got kids, or maybe you've got people that look at you with respect and they honor you, they admire you, they copy you. You're going to help them to actually walk forward in this life. If you don't, here's the thing, you're going to regret it. You're going to go through this season and you're going to come out worse out after COVID and after the craziness that's all happening. You're going to come off worse than you were when you started, and none of us wants that for our personal lives. I don't want that for you, and I know you don't want that for you. We need to see you overcome decisively, and so I'm coming at you with passion today to ask you, would you please commit yourself to overcoming? I'm going to teach you how. We're going to look at how to do that. We're going to talk about how to get the power to do that. It's not going to be a mystery after this message today. I just need your commitment that you'll say, I will be a person that overcomes opposition in a time when it's just raining down opposition, isn't it? It seems like everywhere you turn, there's opposition. I was listening to the rain come down in my city, Portland, Oregon, the other day, and it reminded me of how many things are coming at us as human beings right now that seem to be opposition. And if we're not careful, we can get super discouraged. We can even go into depression if we're not careful. And that can lead to all kinds of problems that blow up families and blow up our personal lives. We do not need to see another person crash and burn. We need to see you overcome. And we need to overcome. And so please, would you commit yourself to this with me today? I want to give you 3 kinds of opposition, okay? Here's the 3 kinds of opposition that we face in life. The first one is internal. We face internal opposition. This would be like when you're struggling with doubts, personal doubts, or maybe you're unsure about something, a decision that you have to make. Maybe you're thinking about your past and you're feeling regret and shame about that, or disappointment about that. These are internal battles we all face. We all face this opposition. The second kind is relational opposition, where maybe you've got somebody that's really an antagonist in your life. And maybe it's somebody at work, or could be even somebody in your family that's an antagonist in your life. You're just like, man, I just can't seem to get a break with this person. That's relational opposition. And then the third kind is spiritual opposition. And I want to point out that actually, if you ask me, I want to argue for the possibility that spiritual opposition is different than the other two. It could be the unseen kind. It could be, maybe it's the kind that, you read about in the Bible, and maybe you wonder, is this real? Evil and good and demons and angels and those things. And I believe it's real. I believe that the Bible teaches that. I personally have witnessed many moments in my life when I've seen spiritual opposition is real. We're going to look at that today. But I also want to argue that all opposition begins as spiritual opposition. I think every internal battle we face begins as a spiritual battle. I think every relational battle that we face begins as a spiritual battle, because there's a will that God has for us, and there's a will that the enemy has for us. And there's this clash happening all of the time. And so I want to pose this thought to you today, which is this: spiritual battles require spiritual breakthroughs. And it's no wonder sometimes when we're facing opposition and it's hard and we feel like we're really pushing that rock uphill, and we're wondering why it's not breaking through. We've tried everything. We've read every book. We've gone to every seminar. We've looked at every YouTube video. We've done everything we can do. We talked to every person we can talk to, and it's just not happening. That's because spiritual battles require spiritual breakthroughs. So I want to lead you right now today to your spiritual breakthrough that I believe in your heart of hearts you want more than anything else to break through, so that you can overcome the opposition that life is throwing at you. Do you know how to tell if you're going to win or if you're going to lose? There is a predictor, the number one predictor. I want to show it to you right now. And here it is that when external forces are greater than internal forces, defeat is near. You lose. If your external forces, the things that are outside of you, are stronger than the things that are inside of you, you lose, right? Well, flip that around. When internal forces are greater than external forces, victory is inevitable. There's a verse in 1 John chapter 4, verse 4, and God says, greater is he who is in you. If you're a follower of Christ, you have the Holy Spirit living in you, whether you know it or not. Greater is he who's in you than he who's in the world. That's talking about the enemy, the devil. We're going to be talking about that spiritual battle. If that feels new to you, just hang in there, because I'm going to explain it in a way I hope you understand today and that makes sense to you. And I think you'll be able to make the connection with lots of battles you've had in your life. But I want to just for a second again talk about what are the consequences for you and me. What if we push through? What could be true for you if you actually push through? Think about it. If you could picture yourself pushing this rock uphill, if you were to actually draw on the strength of God and get enough power in your life to be able to actually move that rock uphill, which doesn't it feel like that's what we're all doing right now? What would happen if you were able to overcome the opposition in your life? What breakthrough might you experience? What would happen in your bank account? What would happen in your family, around the dinner table? What would happen in your love life? What would happen in your career? What would happen in your spiritual growth? What would happen in your impact with other people? What would happen in your depth of knowledge about God's word and about how life works and the wisdom that you have? What would happen if you were able to push that rock uphill? I think God has some great things in store for you. I mean, I can kind of taste it and smell it right now as I think about my own life and about your life. And I hope that you'll embrace the fact that God has a breakthrough waiting for us. We've got to pursue it. There's a way we can do that. We're going to learn it from Nehemiah today. And I want you to jump in with me to Nehemiah chapter 4. Nehemiah is a book in the Bible in the Old Testament. It's a story about, it's an account about a history season in the nation of Israel when Nehemiah was an exile living in Persia, and Jerusalem had been sacked by the Persians, and now Nehemiah was coming back to go, wow, it's all torn apart. We need to rebuild this city, rebuild this wall. And there was one big purpose in mind for Nehemiah. It was because he knew that God wanted to restore the spiritual vitality of that city, because that was the kind of the cornerstone of the life that he wanted people to have. And so same with you and me. If he's going to give us life, it's going to start with our spiritual vitality. He wants to restore it. There's all this opposition against it. Nehemiah faced that. Nehemiah chapter 4, verse 1 said this. It says, Sanballat, that's one of the guys that was an enemy, said was very angry when he learned that we were rebuilding the wall. He's talking about the wall of Jerusalem. They went to rebuild the wall because that was the beginning of the restructuring, the revitalization of this great city, God's favorite city, his favorite people. He had said that. He said, I'm going to dwell there. The center of my activity is going to be in Jerusalem for the Israelites. And so Nehemiah comes back to rebuild the wall so they could restore that. And it said Sanballat was very angry when he learned that we were rebuilding the wall. He flew into a rage and he mocked the Jews. When I was studying this passage, I realized that the Hebrew, the original language that this was written in, when it says Sanballat was very angry, it actually says that his nose became hot. And I thought that was a fascinating way to say somebody was mad. I mean, how mad do you have to be for your nose to get hot? The other day, my wife and I were driving in the car, and we have this understanding about who's the better driver. And our understanding is that we both think that we're the better driver. And so there's one of those moments when I didn't appear to be the better driver, right? And so my wife said something, and I started wondering something inside my mind. I was like, man, I wonder if she's mad. And so I just gently reached my hand over to her across the seat, and I just touched her nose just to see, is it hot? You know, because then I could tell if she was mad or not. That didn't really happen. But wouldn't it be funny if that was how it happened? You could tell if somebody's mad because they were hot. Well, anyways, Sanballat was that mad. His nose got hot. And he was ticked. He was trying to stir up as much trouble as possible. It says, saying in front of his friends and the Samaritan army officers, what does this bunch of poor, feeble Jews think they're doing? Man, I mean, he's throwing slander out there. He's name calling. He's putting them down. He's saying it publicly. He's slandering them publicly. And I don't know if you've, in COVID or any other time in your life, had somebody do something like that to you, but it just digs, doesn't it? And it's designed to discourage you. It's designed to discourage you. So if somebody has said something about you, it's designed to discourage you. I want to challenge you. We need to see you overcome. Do not give in to that discouragement that you sometimes feel. They went on, though. Do they think they can build the wall in a single day by just offering a few sacrifices? I mean, they were just making fun of their faith even. They were taking every shot they could think of. Tear them down for the way they act. Call them weak. Make fun of their faith. They go on. Do they actually think they could make something of stones from a rubbish heap, and charred ones at that? If you didn't grow up in the Middle East, you might not be familiar with how things worked, but they built their walls out of limestone. And limestone, when it got hot, when it was burned, it cracked. And so what happened was it lost its integrity. And if you think about a wall, you would want strong, sturdy stones to hold it up. And what the enemies were looking at was that these stones had been charred. They probably had lost their integrity. And so the Jews are trying to rebuild the city wall with a bunch of broken stones that had lost their integrity. It's going to be weak. And they were mocking them for this. And it says, Tobiah the Ammonite, who was standing beside him, remarked, that stone wall would collapse if even a fox walked on the top of it. Now, I mean, just picture yourself as somebody that Nehemiah had recruited to the task of rebuilding this wall. And you're going like, okay, I believe in this mission and it's going to work. And yeah, God told us to do it and all this stuff. And then Nehemiah is encouraging you and it seems like it's going up. And then all of a sudden your enemy comes and starts casting doubt like that. And sometimes you started off on a good path, right? You started to do something. Maybe you went on a diet, or maybe you turned over a new leaf in COVID, or you've really worked on your time management, or you've said, I'm going to lead my family spiritually, or I'm going to start giving financially, or I'm going to serve somehow in the city, even though it's hard to find a way, but I'm really going to put myself out there. And then somebody starts throwing stones at you. That's the kind of opposition that these guys were facing. And it says, Nehemiah responded. He said, then I prayed, hear us, our God, for we are being mocked. May their scoffing fall back on their own heads, and may they themselves become captives in a foreign land. Yikes. I mean, now Nehemiah is like, he's actually wishing them bad things. And I'm not saying that that's the right thing to do. I'm not sure we're fighting an enemy, human enemy, that we'd have to say, God, make them experience everything I've experienced. But if you think about it, if all battles are spiritual, and if our spiritual enemy is the enemy, we could be as mad as Nehemiah was at our enemy. And so he goes, I want you to turn this around, God. We want to be blessed. Would you stop this opposition, and would you turn this around so we experience success? He said this, do not ignore their guilt. They do not blot out their sins, for they have provoked you to anger right here in front of the builders. What he was calling for was justice from God. And I do like that Nehemiah didn't personally try to enact revenge. He left that in the hands of God. He said his piece, how he felt, and he left it in the hands of God. And I think this is really fantastic because here's what's interesting about this. Now, I don't know what you're facing, and I don't know what you might consider to be your big rock or your big opposition that you're trying to push uphill, and it seems like you're just running out of energy. But what's cool about this situation with Nehemiah, it gives me hope as I even look at my own life and as I see, the days I wake up in the middle of this pandemic, in the middle of this crazy season of our freeze in Oregon, which is in response to a spike in COVID cases, and is a little bit provided more uncertainty for our community. And there's these days I wake up just wondering, like, how much more can we handle as a society? How much more adversity could come our way? How much more opposition? And so Nehemiah must have been feeling that. But the very next verse in Nehemiah chapter 4, verse 6, listen to what it says. It goes like this. So we rebuilt the wall till all of it reached half its height. Okay, he's like, hey, there's progress. This is the very next verse. Right after he prays that prayer, it's like, boom, all of a sudden stuff started coming together. And I want to predict this for you. I want to prophesy this for you. I want to say this for you. Good things are about to happen if you will persist. If you will move forward in God's plan, he can do it. It says, for the people worked with all their heart. I mean, people came together around that vision of, no, we can do this. God is with us. Don't give up. Don't give up. If you're discouraged right now about having to sit at home and not being able to gather with your church family, don't give up. God has opened doors for us to be able to do this right here. You might be sitting with somebody that you love right now and you're experiencing this together. Don't take that for granted. Don't give up. Don't throw in the towel. I mean, let's just keep moving forward. You might be this close to getting your dream job right now. Don't give up, because the passage in Nehemiah chapter 6, verse 15, just a couple chapters later, listen, it happened. It said, so the wall was completed on the 25th of Elul in 52 days. 52 days. They built the entire wall around Jerusalem. Now, I don't know about you, but these leaves have been falling in my backyard for a while now. And I decided a while back, I'm not going to rake them until all the leaves are down, because I don't want to go out there 5 times, right? So those trees need to be bare before I'm going to go out there with my rake and get the backyard cleaned up. And I'll bet you it's going to take me 52 days to get my backyard cleaned up. They built a city wall around Jerusalem in 52 days out of rubble. Because why? Because God was with them. And God is with us. And God is with you. And so we need to see you overcome. We need to overcome together. And we can do it. Now, what is your wall? What is your opposition? Look at it right now, and you tell that opposition, I'm going to beat you. I'm going to overcome you. Maybe it's your health. Maybe there's a medical scare in your life. Maybe there's a character flaw that's been haunting you your whole life, or something in your family, a chain that you so desperately want to break. Maybe the chain of poverty. Maybe the chain of alcoholism. Maybe the chain of dysfunctional families. Maybe the chain of divorce. Maybe you want to break a chain and you're looking at that going like, I'm just destined to make the same mistakes as my forefathers. No, you're not. Let's overcome our opposition. We can do that if we do 2 things. This is what Nehemiah did, and I hope that you'll follow suit and that I'll follow suit together. The first thing is we must do right now if we're going to win. So we got to get perspective. Perspective is so important. You know what perspective is? It's seeing it like it really is. Seeing it like it really is. You know, when somebody puts their hands behind their back and they go, they've got something in one of their hands and they keep moving the thing back and forth. And then, you're supposed to pick which hand is it in. You can't see. That's what makes that so difficult. And you can guess it's always a 50-50 shot, right? Unless you see it. Unless you've got a mirror, you're looking behind their back and you're seeing what's really happening. But perspective is when you step back from something, you see it like it really is. If you're too close to the wall, sometimes you don't see what the painting really is until you step back and you see, oh, that's what that is. If you're just looking at a tiny part of it. And sometimes that's our problem. We're just hyper focused right now on this time and this place and this circumstance. And we need to zoom out a little bit to get a better perspective. And we're going to talk about how to do that. One of the things that I know is that the devil is the master of illusion. He will make things seem like they're worse than they are. And in the Old Testament book of 2 Kings, there's this guy named Elisha. He had an employee, And this employee and him were out, and they were going to fight a battle. And they were going to fight a big battle. And they looked out, and there was all of these people, all these army of enemies. And Elisha said to his employee, he said, "Don't be afraid," Elisha told him, "for there are more on our side than on theirs." He goes, "Don't be afraid. There's more on our side than theirs." And if you really think about it, there's more on our side than on theirs, because we have God with us. If you're fighting the enemy, that's the devil, there's more on our side than theirs. And I think that's a wonderful thing. So you and I've got to get perspective on a couple of specific things. The first one is our identity. Get perspective on your identity. You got to see the truth about your identity. Who are you? You might go like, well, I mean, pretty clearly I'm a washed up loser because I can't seem to get my act together during COVID. I can't seem to get the motivation to get out of bed on time. I can't seem to get my projects done. I can't seem to do okay in school here with, distance learning. I can't seem to do stuff. And so I feel like I'm a failure. That might be what you see. But here's what God sees. Romans chapter 8, verse 37 says, "No, despite all of these things, overwhelming victory is ours through Christ who loved us." Another version of that same verse says, "We are more than conquerors through Christ who loved us." You're a victor. You're a conqueror. You're a child of God. That's who you are. You got to see your identity clearly. Secondly, you got to see your destiny clearly. What is the whole point of your whole existence? What's your purpose? What's your destiny? What are you destined to do in life? Most of us want something great in that realm, don't we? Don't always know how to get it, but did you know that God has already spoken that to you? He's already given you the most amazing, transcendent destiny that could possibly be. And here it is in Romans chapter 8, verse 29. It says this, "For God knew his people in advance, and he chose them to become like his son." That's what he has in store for you. You get to become as patient as Jesus. You get to become as wise as Jesus. You get to become as holy as Jesus over time as God shapes us. That's the goal that he's got in mind. And he's got in mind that we wouldn't do that alone. We'd bring somebody with us. Because right now somebody's watching you. And they're watching how you behave. And they're watching how you respond to adversity. And they're watching and they're waiting and they're hoping that you will overcome. Because that's what Jesus did. They're hoping that you will overcome. Because that is your destiny. We got to get perspective on our identity and on our destiny. And there's one really important way we could do this. I'm offering it to you. It's brand new. We started something new. We're going to be rolling it out and it'll be available. It's called the Bible Challenge. And what the Bible Challenge is it's like a mini course on all things about the Bible. How do you know you can trust the Bible? How do you know how we got the Bible? How do you know who wrote the Bible and whether they were trustworthy? How do you know what the books of the Bible are? How do you know where to find themes in the Bible if you have questions about help? And maybe you've been looking for something like this that can help you take a deeper dive. And, you've kind of got the lay of the land on the basics, but you're really looking for that deeper meaning and a bigger challenge in your spiritual life. This is what you want. You can text the word Bible to 503-905-9067, and we will send you the Bible Challenge. And I'll walk with you through some of this really groundbreaking stuff that's going to help you get on solid ground, can give you this perspective, because the Bible says that our lives are transformed by the renewing of our mind. And that is what it takes to get perspective. So we're going to do that together. I hope that you'll join me. The second thing I'm going to ask you to do, most important two things, get perspective and go to prayer. Get perspective and go to prayer. If you are going to win right now, if you're going to overcome opposition, you will get perspective, you'll be aggressive about it, and you'll go to prayer. I laugh at myself sometimes because it seems like it happens over and over and over again that I'm just like, man, I've tried everything. I've read all the books, as I already said, I've taken all the courses, and then I come to this place where I'm like, you know what I haven't tried? Praying. I mean, really, not just a quick word here and there, but I'm like really investing myself in prayer, like actually praying like I read people's prayers in the Bible. And like those people that I admire who spent hours sometimes wrestling through a battle in prayer, like that, like really investing myself in prayer. Go to prayer. This is what it's going to require. Prayer unlocks the power of God in your life. There's this amazing song I love, and it's called "This Is How I Fight My Battles." And I was thinking about that song this week. This is what prayer is. This is how I fight my battles, is I fight my battles by asking God to fight my battles. That's what Nehemiah did. Did you notice that? And then right after he prayed, progress. The problem was solved. That seemingly mysterious, unexplainable opposition started to melt away. And this is what can happen to you through prayer. I have a friend in Tacoma. He's a pastor. His name's Bill. And like all of us pastors and churches and people, leading anything, it's been a struggle here in COVID, trying to figure out, how do you navigate? How do you know what's coming? How do you make the right decision with all these complicated consequences? And Bill and I have been texting back and forth and talking lately. And he texted me the other day and he said, hey, remind me, what are you guys at Westside doing for Christmas? And it was right. I got this text right after the freeze in Oregon had restarted, which meant we can't do, our services in person. And we'd had our Christmas plans, really excited about them. And I'm telling you right now, in faith, I'm telling you, Christmas is coming. We're trusting God for some great things. We're trusting because we don't know how it's going to work out in the next couple of weeks, but I'm trusting that God's going to open some doors. But Bill sent me this text and he goes, well, I know that is complicated, and I know everybody is just praying and playing it by ear. And I was like, yeah, that's probably about right. If you're running a business, you know exactly what we're talking about. You're praying and you're playing it by ear. And you know what? Sometimes that's all it takes, because God's the one that untangles the messes and stuff. In that Old Testament passage of 2 Kings, here's the next thing that Elisha says to his employee. He says, "O Lord, open his eyes and let him see." The Lord opened the young man's eyes, and when he looked up, he saw the hillside around Elisha was filled with horses and chariots of fire. And I started thinking to myself, what if we just aren't seeing what's really happening? Because if you believe what God's word says about the reality of life, we know that there are other forces at work. It's called the spiritual battle. Spiritual battles require spiritual breakthroughs. And in this case, there was this spiritual breakthrough happening that one of the guys didn't even see. Sometimes you can make decisions because you're only looking at what you can see. But the Bible says we walk by faith, not by sight. How do you know that there's not an angel sitting next to you right now? How do you know that God's Spirit isn't going before you for that difficult conversation that you have to have tomorrow, and it's going to melt the heart of the person that you have to talk to? I mean, this is how we fight our battles, is because we pray and God answered. Jesus actually said when one of the disciples came up to him and said, "Jesus, we've been trying to cast out demons in your name." And he said, there's some like super demons out there, and they won't come out of people. They won't leave us alone. They won't stop tormenting people. And Jesus said this, and this is fascinating to me. He said, "This kind can be cast out only by prayer." Wow. I mean, there is a power that God unlocks when we pray. We ask him in Jesus' name to do something on our behalf. And I want to invite you to do that. I want to ask you, would you invest yourself in prayer? Here's one way. You could join our Facebook Live. We're doing it every Wednesday at noon. I'm leading it, and I would love to have you there on Westside's Facebook profile. You can just go there and you can jump on at noon on Wednesdays, and we'll pray together, because there's power in prayer. And the other thing that we're doing is, for many of you, you haven't heard this yet, but we want to surround our church with circles of prayer. And so I want you to know you're being prayed for. And we have some very special news coming out this week and next week where we're going to really go the extra mile to pray for you. You're cared for, you're loved, and you are going to be prayed for. And we're excited about that because we believe that prayer unlocks the power of God for our lives, and we want to see that together, and we need to see you overcome. And I believe that we're going to. Some of you have never experienced this kind of power in your life. Maybe you're facing opposition, but you haven't experienced the power to set you free from it. And I want to give you an opportunity right now to understand something. In just a couple minutes, we're going to receive communion. If you're not sure what that means, I'll explain it. But it's really for people who've already made a commitment to Jesus Christ. It's a celebration Jesus calls his followers to do, to say, I want you to remember something about my death, about the sacrifice that I made for you. And maybe you're not a person who's ever kind of connected the dots with that yet. You haven't come to full understanding of what your Creator has done to bring you back to him. You haven't made your own personal peace with God yet. Did you know there's a way? His name is Jesus. He said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father but by me." And I want to ask you right now, if you've never yet said that first prayer, what about it right now where you're at? What about all the opposition You don't have to face it by yourself. What if you could face that knowing for a fact that God has forgiven your sins and that he is with you and that he's in you and that he's for you right now? You can do that right now. If that's where you're at and you're ready to say yes to Jesus and his love and accept his forgiveness, I want to ask you right where you're at to bow your heads. I want to lead you in a prayer. Please pray with me right now. Jesus, I give you my life. Thank you for saving me. I believe in you, your life, your death on the cross, and your resurrection. Forgive me of my sins. Fill me with your Holy Spirit. Lead me and teach me to follow you. And I ask it in Jesus' name. You know, the Bible says that if you receive Christ like that you become the child of God and that he fills you with his Spirit and that he's with you and he's going to give you the power to overcome. And I'm so excited about that. There's something that he did that's absolutely fantastic. And maybe you've never even, as a follower of Christ, paused to consider this. But there's this passage in Hebrews 4:6, and it says this. It says, so let us come boldly to the throne of our gracious God, that we will receive his mercy and we will find grace to help us when we need it most. Now, how is that even possible? Because if you know the Bible, you know that there's a separation between God's throne and people that existed in the Old Testament of the Bible, that people couldn't just come up to God's throne. They couldn't just come up to God's throne. They had to actually be distanced and separated. And there was a priest that would represent. But when Jesus died on the cross, did you know that when we celebrate communion, he says, this is my body, which is broken for you. Did you know that the moment Jesus died on the cross, there was a separation in the temple that kept the Holy of Holies away from the common people. And that separation was called the veil. It was a very thick curtain and it ripped from top to bottom when Jesus gave his life. Did you know that he invites you and me in this moment of communion to celebrate that? So if you have your communion crackers, your communion juice, and I hope that you do, and if you don't, go get it real quick. You can pause the video if you're watching later. You can run to the cupboard right now and get some stuff. Get what you can. Let's celebrate communion together because Jesus said, this is my body, which is broken for you. He said, I want you to do this in remembrance of me. Would you eat with me? Every time I take communion, I'm reminded, as I put that bread in my mouth, I'm reminded of the sacrifice of Jesus. I'm so thankful for it. And then he said, this cup is the new covenant in my blood. He said, the deal has changed. I have paid the price for your sins. He goes, by receiving this payment, your sins are washed away. They're gone. As far as the east is from the west, I've buried your sin in the depths of the deepest sea. And sometimes I wonder if we're not overcoming because we're relying on ourselves instead of relying on the great, amazing privilege that we have to come boldly before the throne of his grace because God has paid the price for you and me. He changed the deal. He said, this is the new deal in my blood. Drink it in remembrance of me. Would you drink the cup with me? He said, for whenever you eat this bread and drink this cup, you proclaim the Lord's death until he comes. I'm so thankful to know that Jesus can help us overcome. And I'm praying with you that he'll do that for you this week. Would you join me and the Westside Band as we celebrate his love?
That created the heavens, lifted me out of the slimy pit, out of the mud and mire. He set my feet on a rock and gave me a firm place to stand. He put a new song in my mouth, a hymn of praise to our God. Many will see and fear the Lord and put their trust in Him.
High in surrender, I need you now. Hold my heart now and forever. My soul cries out. Here I stand, high in surrender. I need you now. Hold my heart now and forever. My soul cries out. Here I stand, high in surrender. I need you now. Hold my heart now and forever. My soul cries out. Yeah. Here I stand, high in surrender. I need you now. Hold my heart now and forever. My soul cries out. Once I was broken, you let my whole heart through. Sin has no hold on me, 'cause your grace holds me now. And with you, healed and forgiven. Look where my chains are now. Death has no hold on me, 'cause your grace holds that ground. Grace holds me now. Your grace holds me now. Your grace holds me now. Your grace holds me now. Healed and forgiven. Look where my chains are now. Death has no hold on me, 'cause your grace holds that ground. And your grace holds me now. Your grace holds me now.
Thank you for being here today. Thank you for inviting us into your space, and we hope you are encouraged for the week ahead.
Yes, and make sure that you subscribe to the Westside Weekly. There is a link on your screen. You can find events and signups on that.
Yeah, and we only talked about 2 things today.
Right.
That thing is packed with stuff.
So
you're-
much going on.
You're going to want to make sure you're subscribed to that.
Yes.
And you can follow us in a bunch of other places too.
Yep.
Right?
Instagram, Facebook, YouTube.
Yeah.
So many different places.
Next week, you're going to want to come back. We're going to move into episode 4 of the Rebuild Your Life series. It's going to be great.
Yes. And as always, parents and kids, stick around.
Good morning, Westside students. Coming to you from our Westside Students Cafe. Hey, it's lesson time. So go to westsidecommunitychurch.com/students for today's lesson. Go check it out.
Hi, my name is Stacy Allen, and I am the Kids Ministry Director here at Westside Community Church. Are you wondering how you can stay informed as to what is happening in kids ministry? We have a Facebook group. So if you haven't joined us already, go to Facebook and look for Westside Community Church Kids. There we post activities, we post announcements about things that are happening at church. We'll have messages from volunteers, and we also have daily activities that you can use with your family to enhance each week's lesson. Those lessons can be found on our kids ministry website. There you will find lessons for 3 age groups, for preschool kiddos, kindergarten through 3rd grade, and then lessons for 4th and 5th graders. We call them Club 45. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me at Stacy, S-T-A-C-Y, at westsidemail.com. Hope your family is doing well.